Anyway, along with that, I wanted to get on this other part of video games that have to do with Gundam. We talked about this before the show started, and that's where Bandai Namco had an internal video game division in Singapore that was doing like their Ace Combat. They would be contracted by Nintendo to do Splatoon 3, for instance, but Nintendo has acquired them. So Bandai Namco has lost a studio that Nintendo has acquired. And as we were talking about before, it's this thing that's happening in Japan where Japanese publishers are scared about the Chinese studios NetEase and Tencent that are kind of poaching Japanese developers. They're paying them more. They're trying to get the prestige ones. And so Japan's having to shift, how they do things. And I wonder how much this has affected then the development of Gundam games and the future development of Gundam games. Because really, there's not like this. There's not like this in the air like Gundam gaming, and I don't know how to explain that. Like with Warhammer, there is like when you think Warhammer video games, there's like all these like Dawn of War, and the new one's going to be coming out soon. People always talk about Dawn of War. I think the closest to that would be like the Versus games and the build game Gunpla.
The Breaker.
Let me let you talk for a second.
No. The like you said, Gundam gaming has always kind of had an identity crisis, where it's where they don't know exactly what gameplay embodies Gundam as a franchise, and so there's a lot of these different types of games that come out, and it's GBO2 is a really long-running game, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's free to play.
And the system is made to get a lot of money, so it can
I don't think that, and correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't looked at like the Steam numbers or anything but GBO2 doesn't have like a ton of active players. It's not exactly like crushing it as far as player base. So it's not like the game itself has mass appeal. And then even something that I love, like G Generation Eternal, is really just about the gacha elements and if there weren't things that I was trying to unlock, I don't think I would ever log in, because what's the point?
You play the story.
Even now I'm like, man, I've maxed out my Zeta Gundam. What's next? Seriously, like that's where I'm at with it. It's like, okay, sure, there's like an occasional character that I find interesting that I'll try and unlock, but what is, and we have this conversation, I swear, like every month, is like, what is the quintessential Gundam game that would be like genre defining?
Okay, so I don't have the answer to that, but this will like lead me into another aspect. But first, I want to give a shout out to, I'll just say the name it says in the chat, Luke Light Wolf 121. We know Lucas Garrett. Good evening, guys. Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks. And I just want to shout out, he's got this little emblem next to him, and I think that says
he's a channel supporter.
Is that 3? I guess I made it too small, but that's the new little YouTube icon. Okay, Fluffy. My wife is getting home and the dog gets excited and starts barking. So sorry if you guys are hearing that, but so yeah, if you guys do the YouTube membership, it does a little thing like that. I think it's pretty cool. But anyway, so Bandai Namco was working on, or that team was working on Metroid Prime Remastered. Okay. And there's another reason I want to bring all this up is because of the Metroid series. The Metroid series is a series I've always loved, but Nintendo has never given it the Nintendo treatment. Every time Nintendo makes a Metroid game, they outsource it.
True.
And you know what? To me, I don't like that, because they don't do that with their Mario or Donkey Kong or Zelda. It's in-house. They make it tight. They make each iteration of their IPs genre defining. Breath of the Wild pretty much became a genre. I mean, side-scrolling platformers are genre. 3D platformers are a genre. Metroidvania, that's a genre. But people now talk about Hollow Knight more. Hollow Knight is so just a couple devs, huge, big game. And so what, again, I was using ChatGPT to talk about the Japanese developer thing and how it relates to Metroid. And Metroid is just one of those games where it's this Japanese sort of pride we were talking about, where they want to start paying more to keep their developers in house. But Metroid isn't popular in Japan; it is in the West. So
Right.
so it makes enough money regardless. And it's almost the inverse of the Pokemon situation. Pokemon makes so much money, they purposely spend little money on it.
Yeah.
But with the Metroid games, they're like, well, they make good money in the West, so we'll just have whoever develop it. And so I think what's interesting about this is when I'm saying NetEase and Tencent are wanting to poach these Japanese developers are willing sometimes to do this because of, you would see like Metroid, oh, Nintendo's going to have a Western developer do the Metroid. And we see Square Enix, other Japanese developers in the 2010s started being more Western leaning, following Western video game development. And so I think it's interesting because at the end of the day, Nintendo doesn't really owe us anything with Metroid, but I just wish they had their, like, what do you call it? Not that they like a code of honor. If you're willing to put all your resources into your Zelda, your Mario, your Donkey Kong, they should do that with Metroid, or not at all, because this Metroid Prime 4 was, I think, internal, or it was Bandai Namco was working on it, and then they went to Retro, or I think it went back and forth a few times, Retro Studios. And then the Metroid Dread was Mercury Steam in Spain. So, like, it's just interesting where, and
How much of it do you think is like ego based? Because you know, we talk about a lot of like the Nintendo properties that get a lot of love, and they tend to be the Miyamoto brainchildren, you know.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's one of the reasons that Metroid doesn't get that kind of love, is it's like, well, it's not one of Miyamoto's babies, so we're not going to protect it the way that we protect everything else. You know what I mean?